question I keep coming back to, and I think a lot of association and nonprofit leaders quietly wrestle with, and even if it's not asked out loud, you know, am I growing a community or am I just managing the decline? And that's the exact theme that we're talking today. Welcome to 108 Idea Exchange, the podcast where associations and nonprofit leaders come to think differently, lead more intentionally, and build the kind of organizations their community actually deserve. I'm Manny. I'm the host and growth strategist for this show. And the show is brought to you by 108 Idea Space, a team that has spent more than 30 years in the trenches with associations and nonprofits, helping them connect strategy to systems and make it real. And today's conversation is one I have been genuinely looking forward to, actually. My guest is Ashley Robbins. She's the membership director at the American Academy of Implant Dentistry, the world's oldest organization dedicated to implant dentistry, a community of over 4,500 professionals across more than 50 countries. Ashley isn't just managing a membership database, she's leading a global strategy for how profession grows, how it credentials itself, and how it stays relevant to a dental landscape that is shifting beneath everyone's feet with the rise of service organizations, the urgency to reach early career dentists, and so much more. So, Ashley, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Manny. Thank you for having me. I'm excited as well.
Yes, awesome. All right. So, Ashley, I've spent some time online in your world before this conversation. And
Okay.
in my research, I may have gotten things a bit, off base. So I'd genuinely love for you to correct me where I have been off base. I'd love to explore your story, AAID's story, and this is something that our sector needs to hear as well. Now, before we roll into complete, interview format, I read that before AAID, you served as the interim CEO at the International Association of Lighting Designers during what sounds like a period of real organizational change. Now, I'm curious, what did that experience teach you about leadership that you carry into the work that you do at AAID today?
Yeah, absolutely. I was with the International Association of Lighting Designers for almost 10 years, and the last year and a half, 2 years, served as the interim CEO. And we, as many associations and many people around the world were heavily affected by the pandemic, we did have a drastic staffing reduction. And so, as I was assuming the role as interim CEO, the organization was going through such a financial shift and a staff shift. And so it really was learning a lot about how to be a leader during the most turbulent
Yeah.
time. A lot of organizations were affected financially. We were both. It was financial and from a staffing point as well. So we lost about half of our staff. And
That
so it really was learning how to manage current staff and morale. You know, you guys were the people to be selected to help carry on the mission of the organization. And how do you motivate in a time of challenge? And so I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about how to be a leader. I definitely took a lot from my colleagues because we were once colleagues and then now I was kind of leading them. But in that role and in that position, I really, relied heavily on them and allowed them. I created this whole like say yes, let's just say
Mhm.
yes. Like, why not? I mean, no idea is a bad idea. Let's just do it, don't hold back. And so I think that that experience and that time and that organization and that leadership perspective really helped shape, where I am today and what I'm doing with the academy. really taking the entrepreneurial leadership of, hey, our organization has drastically changed. What are we going to do? Well, sure, let's do it. Let's try it. Why
Yeah.
not? And really, you know, leveraged my relationships with my current, with my colleagues, and then as in my role, they really helped me, and I leaned on them, and then we worked really well together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about, obviously on one end, there's disruption and challenges. On the other hand, there's opportunity and how you can leverage that. And you can look at things from a fresher perspective, say yes to new things, have more intentionality as well. Now, one thing a lot of my listeners want to hear is what is the challenge that keeps coming up in the minds of, let's say, membership leaders when they think about growth and not just technological or technical challenges, but the mental one and the story they're telling themselves about why it's hard.
So are you asking why is it hard to grow membership? Is that like what are the barriers that I think
Kind
about?
Yes, kind of like from a membership leader's perspective, what goes on in your mind when you think about growth, and it may or may not be just technical, but what actually makes a membership director's life hard, and what goes on there in their mind?
Yeah, definitely. I think for us in particular at the Academy is we're noticing a lot of our members who are very seasoned. They've been around for a very long time. With that also comes retirement. So a lot of our members are retiring. So, what's our growth pipeline? Like who's our new future? Who are our new future leaders? How are we identifying them? How are we keeping the Academy relevant? And what does that look like to people newly in the dental world? Um, and so that's really kind of what we're thinking about, like how to connect with people where they are um, currently, and what does that look like, and what are we able to provide as the Academy to help members in their career path. And how do we stay relevant, right? How do we stay
Yeah.
relevant in a world that is you could maybe find the answer in AI, right?
Yeah.
Like you can look something up, like why do you need to be a part of the Academy? And so that's really been our primary focus is what do we provide as the Academy that they cannot get anywhere else?
Hmm. Yeah, I guess that is an ongoing challenge for a lot of associations. Like, how do we stay relevant in 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 a time where information access is so easy, and obviously there's information, but it may or may not be correct. So how do we position our association as being the leader, for advocacy for their growth and changing, impacting their lives? And what you shared is actually fascinating because it um because what you're describing almost sounds like the challenge that's visible is actually covered by what's underneath. And obviously there are these metrics like renewal rates and acquisition metrics and
Mm.
conference attendance and all these numbers that kind of you know um, come into the picture. But a lot of times there's so much more going on underneath that kind of points associations in the wrong direction, or maybe look at the problem in the wrong manner. And that's an increasing conversation topic that I'm seeing nowadays. Now, if a new membership director or someone out there who's just stepping into a membership role comes to you, what's the smallest, most honest, most simple next right action you would have them take so that they can understand their role better, they can understand their responsibility better, and they can serve their members in the right manner?
Yeah, I think every industry is different. All members are different. Um, so when I step into a new role or a new association, I am trying to understand who my members are,
Mhm.
how they work, when are they available, how do they want to communicate. So in particular, dentists, they primarily work Monday through Thursday. Maybe Friday is their in-office day, so they might have a little more availability on Fridays to pick up the phone or have a meeting. Other than that, it's probably going to be in the evening, right? So, and then we're communicating, maybe we're, sending out communication on the weekends. So I think it's really just trying to understand, who are your members, really getting, that user persona, who are they? How do they like to communicate? What are their interests? What do they need? What do they need from the association? And I think once you kind of have those keys, that really unlocks the success. And then you're really able to build on that and build out a whole communication strategy, and really focus on, you know, how to connect with them, and then they'll have a better user experience.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
that's
so that would be my advice.
yeah, and that's so authentic because Ashley, you touched on a few great points there, and knowing your members, understanding what their needs are, but also preferences, like when
Mm,
are they open to talk to you? What is not halting their day and still, making them open to actually have a conversation? And that's something that a lot of times, you know, people feel that, I have something to serve, like I have something to offer, but understanding when they're available actually respects their time. And, these are preferences marketing tools and technologies don't gather, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely we just started to implement texting. We've asked, like, can we text you? Okay. So we're starting to text folks, but we're being very respectful and very mindful not to over text, right?
Yeah.
And only text those who prefer. And so, yeah, we're trying to understand, um, you know, what are their preferences? How do they want to be communicated? When is a good time? And then deliver,
Yeah.
listen to them and then actually do it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really tactical advice. Thank you so much for that. Now, I also wanted to ask you something that I find gets to the heart of why association work is so meaningful. And so hard as well, especially because teams are so lean. Now, when you think about 4,500 professionals in AAID's community across 50 countries, their needs are different, their geography is different, their culture is different. Some are low context, some are high context. But all in all, what are you ultimately trying to make true for your members? The human outcome, not just the metrics.
Yeah, so we're really focused on making sure that whoever is joining the academy and even a long-term member, they're having a good user experience. So
Mm,
even from when they first hear about us, what are they hearing about the academy, to when they first start to join the academy, what does that look like? So we have, like, the new member onboarding experience, different kind of check-ins, and
mm,
really, but also thinking, okay, you're just joining for this 1 year. What does the future look like, and where do you want to go within your career path, and what does credentialing look like, or what
mm.
other education are you looking to do? What about your business practice needs? Um, you know, it depends. Right now, the dental landscape is really shifting. Um, a lot, previously there's a lot of independent practice um, owners, and now it's shifting into the dental service organization, so
Yeah.
larger conglomerates of healthcare. So even the industry is shifting. So how are we as an organization shifting as well? And what do we need to do to be able to service um, members that are from an independent practice all the way into a DSO? Because they have different needs. Some
Perfect.
are more focused on business, acumen, or, have to fill the office with equipment, and the other is maybe a little more focused on patient, a
Yeah,
little patient-centered care.
yeah. Can you tell me which is the biggest segment of members you have, like amongst all the types you have?
Yeah, so our credentialed member is the largest segment. So
Okay.
those who have taken the exam, passed the exam, and been a credentialed member. So that's our largest area. And then I would also say then it is like a general member.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you talked about creating an amazing user experience for your members. Now, there's two aspects I feel, to user experience. One is how someone perceives value, and the other is what is the actual click by click experience of calling, going online, searching
Right.
something up, right?
Mhm.
For, let's say, your biggest membership type, which is the credentialed members, what does success actually look like for them, who are fully experiencing AAIDs, and how you're designing the experience for them?
Yeah, I would say, they receive their credential, then they stay connected with the academy. I think, they go through that entire process, and then what we'd like to do is then have them help be the instrumental leaders to future generations. Like, what are you doing once you're a credentialed member? Then are you speaking? Are you helping the next generation? Are you being a credentialing coach? Can you help others become credentialed? And then we're also, asking them if they could be a proctor, for the
Yeah.
exams as well. And then hopefully move into leadership positions, volunteer leader positions within the academy. I think being a part of an association, you are getting, education, but it is also, I think a lot of people feel rewarded by being able to give back. So, how am I contributing to the success of the organization? And I think a lot of people who are a credentialed member or any member of an association, they feel real value in that. Having those leadership opportunities and being able to provide success to the organization by their participation.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I feel that's the highest level of engagement, right?
Yeah.
When you're collaborating on moving the profession forward, and it gives you joy, recognition, and it's just amazing. Now, I'd suspect, like many associations, 4,500 members,
Hmm.
only a small percentage of those people get to be a volunteer and get to be a part of the leadership roles that you talked about. How do you track engagement levels and success for the members who are not engaged in those volunteer and leadership kind of roles at the
Yeah.
organization?
Yeah, definitely. That is challenging. Um, Especially when you have a finite amount of opportunities for people to be involved. We do have smaller micro volunteer opportunities that folks can
Mm.
join, can participate. Maybe they were a reviewer of the journal or kind of like one-off, it's not a year
Mm.
commitment or a 2-year commitment, but it's a one-time commitment.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that's always super valuable. Then we have in our current database, we do have like a quick NPS score. So
Mm.
um, if people log in, it'll prompt them to be able to rate the associate or the academy. And so I found that to be super helpful, understanding, okay, they said we're a 10, they're really happy and engaged. And then maybe we utilize, and then when we, based on that information, we use that. It's like, hey, maybe we could ask them for a testimonial, or maybe
Yeah.
they want to be involved in X, or, but then if you get like a 0, 1, 2, 3, then I'm reaching out to them personally, asking like, how can I help? And a lot of the responses I've got, it might have just been a confusion, like, hey, I actually joined, but I thought X, you know? And
Mhm.
so it really allows that opportunity to be able to clarify any, misunderstanding, or direct them into the right place. Like, we actually do have that available and it's located here. And so it's been very successful. It's been such a small implementation, um, but it's been very helpful being able to gauge where people are, with the academy.
Yeah. Do you know the average NPS score right now?
Yeah, well, we launched it in segments. We do it pretty much everything by segments. We're rolling things out just to kind of test and play around with it. So we did only roll it out to credentialed members at first, and it was really high. We were nines and tens, and so we're like, okay, let's see. We rolled it out to all members, and it was a little bit lower. So, which makes sense. I think our credentialed members are a little bit more engaged, and excited to be involved in that capacity. So, um, yeah.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah, that's amazing. And
yeah.
and and I feel that's where, the answers are hidden. Because a
Hmm.
lot of times I feel association staffers or association teams, they want to know why someone is leaving, right? And there are two ways. There's either one, how can I identify an at-risk member today and what's the reason behind that? And two, okay, someone has left. Do I know why they left? Because then if I have 100 members, out of 100 members, 80 members leaving for the same reason, maybe I can proactively change something,
Yeah.
right? Now,
Yeah. Absolutely.
based on the NPS scores that you received, especially the ones which were a bit lower on the lower end,
Hmm.
what patterns are you seeing where AID can maybe tweak a few things, maybe technology and systems can help them? Because I know for a lot of organizations, it's things like, hey, I cannot find this content, or I cannot find this, or it's clunky and things like that. So
Yeah.
talk to me more about that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we just received one that said that our website was too slow. So, I don't know if that was real or not, right? You kind of have to measure based on, well, is it on your end, and have that dialogue and that conversation. Um, yeah, I think it is really able to shape how you would make any adjustments, even just navigation wise, being able to find things specifically within the website. Like, oh, I
Yeah,
didn't think of it that way. So it's been very helpful in that way, to have that immediate feedback,
yeah,
especially if somebody is at risk of leaving. You don't necessarily, you go through the whole year, then they don't renew, then you ask them, your follow-up survey, why did you not renew? It's kind of too late at that point.
yeah,
This really allows the opportunity to have that earlier conversation and fix anything, as you mentioned, are there any tweaks we can make, as you go along? I would say, we haven't had to make any major tweaks so far, but it has just been super helpful in identifying anyone that's at risk of leaving, because you're able to, what I've really been able to do is connect them with, their district. Hey, did you know you have a district in your area? What, a district leader? They reach out and able to make that connection. And so I think that's been really helpful and very valuable, for engagement.
that's amazing. That's really awesome. And from the outside, it looks like your organization's strategic objective right now is not just growth in numbers, but growth in depth, right?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
and moving more members through the credentialing journey, making the pathway more accessible to early career dentists and DSO employee dentists and things like
Hmm.
that. And you know, but I wonder, how has technology had an impact on all these experiences for your members? As we hold this podcast, a lot of times we get questions on, AMSs are the biggest piece for almost all organizations out there.
Right.
How has technology been instrumental, or sometimes even, come in the way because it's not
Hmm.
uncommon?
Yeah, it's been a tremendous help and then sometimes tremendously complicated.
Mm,
Um, we do have a lot of systems with our AMS that are connected and connect well, and that's been very successful. Then there might be a piece that doesn't connect well, so then that's just separate, and it's not really able to be all in one place. And you just work with it, right? You just go with it.
yeah,
It's not always going to be a perfect system. Um, but you can utilize what you have available, and it has been helpful because you're able to do a lot and do a lot very, like I said, we do segment our membership a lot, so we're really focusing on specific communications, or communication types to certain people, based on their preference and based on their member type, and their experience. So we are able to do that based on technology. But then there are some hiccups where it doesn't necessarily, the data isn't always flowing. The
yeah.
information isn't always flowing. So then there's a little bit of a disconnect, but you just go with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon to hear where the AMS and the marketing platform are two different systems. And
Right.
obviously, there's some sort of segmentation in the AMS. But how does that level of segmentation and knowledge, how does that knowledge help me segment better in the marketing system as well? So that
Mm.
all the communication that goes out is the most relevant, keeps my members informed and engaged at the same time. Now, what's the part of workflow in your experience, and this may be across your roles in different organizations, but what's the part of the workflow that takes more from the team than it should? Because just like your members, maybe there are like low NPS score members, but there's like a bigger chunk of members who would have a similar set of complaint, and maybe that's where we should identify that let's prioritize this. So for your teams in your experience, what workflows take more from your teams than it should?
Yeah, I think since we do segment and we do kind of individualize a lot of stuff, then that requires a lot of individual response time and attention. And that's not necessarily scalable. So you really do have to individually reach out, or you're connecting them with a district leader, or with another member. And so that it is a lot of manual labor, right? And so that I wouldn't see that necessarily being able to change, unless we implement some type of AI. But then you're kind of losing that personal touch. And I think that that's what's very valuable, particularly in association work, is being able to, AI is good for a time and a place, but then there are instances where being able to communicate with a person is probably very valuable and valuable to the member as well.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that we did do for one of our clients was, because obviously when it comes to human touch for the members, you don't want to replace that with mechanics and AI. But how can
Mm-hmm.
we implement AI in a way that, number one, connects your marketing and AMS and all the other tools, not just that, like the
Yes,
LMS, um,
absolutely.
events, engagement, everything, community, committees, everything.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
how can staff utilize AI to give the next best action? For example, in your case, you said connecting them with a district leader. So as a membership staff person, I can just go in and prompt, okay, here are these 10, or like find a list of members whose NPS score was low and give me recommendations on what needs to be done. And then
Mhm.
the AI
Right,
can actually feed in, okay, connect this person to this district leader because they're in X location and things like that. So it's pretty mind blowing when I actually saw that happening in the system. But yeah, I agree with you. You cannot replace the human touch for your members,
right.
because that's really valuable for them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, from your perspective, when you look at the next, like the horizon for AAID, what excites you the most? What do you see as the next chapter?
Yeah, I mean, I've been really excited what we've been able to do. We've done a lot of membership modeling
Mm,
for, DSOs. We've implemented a maternity paternity policy. I think the academy is embracing change,
mm,
and that's really exciting. Because we are evolving and we are moving with the world and the industry. The dental landscape is changing, and so the academy also has to change. And I think a lot of our leaders are very aware of that and very, flexible to the change as well, which is also very exciting, right? Because you kind of have to have both. You have to have, that support through leadership as well. Um, and for them to be on board too. And I think that we've got all the right pieces right now. We've got a really good staff, we've got a really good leadership team, and some really good ideas about how to move the academy forward. So I think that the future is looking bright.
that's amazing. Now, whenever I talk about opportunity, it all at some point or the other comes up like what's the scariest or most maybe potentially hard part of this? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I think on the flip side of that, change is hard, change is scary, and people sometimes don't necessarily want to change. And so that's the hard part is when currently we're thinking about even doing digital certificates, and it's like, hey, let's just do a digital certificate. It'll actually reach the person because sometimes with the mail it doesn't always reach the person, and they're able to print on demand. It could be a really cool experience, but maybe some of our leadership, well, I like receiving that nice paper, and so it's just a small change, but it seems problematic because they're not necessarily open to that small change. um, but I think it'll be so. There are some technology pieces that are not always that are still a little scary for folks to embrace.
Yeah. In our earlier conversation, I think you talked like we discussed you look at things from a data-driven decision-making perspective. You talk so, eloquently about technology and how it helps you. How do you feel like what do you feel are the areas of opportunity for your members' experience? Because what I've come to learn as in like not as seasoned professional in the association space is that you know members want to experience the organization as one organization, not as different departments. Uh,
Absolutely.
and what I mean by that is when we have an LMS, even with an SSO, an AMS
Hmm.
with a login
Hmm.
password, an events platform, that
Right.
actually makes or pushes them to experience the organization as different departments. Like
Yes.
now I'm talking to the events team, now I'm talking to
Right.
this, I'm
Right.
logging into this. So what's the connective tissue? Like, how are you managing or looking at the connective tissue for your members so that they log in once, they have everything in one place, it's a unified
Yeah.
experience for them, and how is that looking like in your world?
Yeah, absolutely. That's always the forefront of when we're engaging in with new vendors is what is the user experience going to be like, and is it going to be seamless? Because
Yeah.
just as you said, don't want them to think that it's disjointed or that there are different departments or different systems. Obviously, there's different systems, but a cohesive, seamless user experience is really what we're aiming for. At the moment, we pretty much have a single sign-on experience for our users, and we were just able to implement that with our journal as well. And
Mhm.
so that was like one of the last pieces. So we have our LMS connected to our database along with our events registration, our annual conference registration, and like our journal as well. And so it's been very helpful. I'm sure there might be still a few tweaks that we need to iron out as we continue forward. But that actually has been very important to me, in particular as a membership director, because as membership, you're kind of entwined with all the other departments and you've really got understanding what's going on in each department. And for me, the user experience is super important. And I'm very happy that we've been able to implement the single sign-on across the board.
Yeah, no, that's amazing because
Yeah.
um, like we work with a few other organizations, and I think I mentioned the other organizations that we're starting to work with. And I think one of the key pieces was our members are really busy, and like you mentioned, your members are probably have more time because they're focusing on administrative work on Friday. Now, how can we make access to value easier with mobile friendly user
Right.
interface and things like that? So it's I think digital transformation is a journey. Like there's no one eventual um, summit that you can
Yeah.
reach, right?
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
now with AI, one thing that I learned recently is a concept for Model Context Protocol, which is MCP. Now, instead of APIs which connect different systems, now we're coming up with this thing called MCP, where, essentially for a staff, the example is they log in to a user interface like Claude or ChatGPT.
Mhm.
They wake up and say, okay, what do I need to work on today? And
Right.
essentially, the AI looks into all your systems and identifies what's needed and gives back large language model kind of direction. So it connects all the platforms with AI, and AI is the interface that you connect with on a day-to-day basis. And we are actually exploring that with one of our clients on the membership side as well. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah, definitely. That's really interesting.
that's right.
That's helpful. I know like email right now they have that, it'll search through your email. I just hit that like what are the top three things I need to focus on today? But it's primarily just within your email. So it would be interesting if it's a variety of different platforms that it's pulling from and able to guide you on your to-do list, right? It's
That's
essentially
right.
what it is.
Exactly. And so much more, especially for an organization like yourself, where there's like a 3 year or a multi-year credentialing cycle,
Mm,
right? Keeping people on track with the
right.
ease of knowing what's next is
Yep.
critical. And essentially, like I'd suspect that's the time, like until they're credentialed, is the time where they need the most like hyper care so that they can keep moving forward because I'm like I recognize it's not easy to be a fellow or get to that level of
Right.
specialty in your industry.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
This has been such an interesting conversation, Ashley. Now, obviously, I came prepared with a lot of questions, but is there something that I should have asked from your experience or your expertise that I did not?
Mm, Well, yeah, I don't know if you want to hear any specifics about, we did implement this international rate for membership, which I think there's been a lot of new and interesting things that we've been doing in terms of how to make membership accessible and
Hmm.
valuable to our members based on where they are in their career or in the world, right? And so what we did hear from a lot of our members was, hey, I would really like to be involved with the academy. However, based on my current location, I'm really unable to afford it. And so we went out and looked. We kept hearing this. So I think one of the most important things you can do as a leader within an organization is if you're consistently hearing feedback, then listen and dig into it a little more. And so that's what we did. We really looked at, how can we focus, or what are other organizations doing? Are they offering any reprieve on the membership fee? So we did look at different lower socioeconomic countries, and we were able to implement a reduced membership fee
Awesome.
for certain countries who were unable to afford membership. And so I think that's been huge. We ran it by started our membership committee. It went by the finance committee. The board, and then the membership voted on it as well. And so overwhelmingly, it was being able to provide access and education to pretty much everyone, right, based on
Yeah.
where they are. And so that was really exciting to see. And so we've just been doing a variety of different things. We also implemented a maternity paternity policy as well,
Yeah.
which not a lot of other associations are really doing. I looked, especially in the dental industry, it really wasn't a thing. So it was really looking at what are other groups doing or not doing, and what can we do, right? And again, our group decided that it was important, and we've only had a few this year take us up on it's a reduced fee for the year, but it's for 1 year, right? And we're looking to have that loyalty, that trust with our member base, and continue membership long term. And so that's really was our focus was, let's allow for this 1 year, and make that a benefit to folks to show that we're really invested in them and in their career as well. And we want them to grow with the academy.
Yeah. And from what I'm understanding, maternity paternity that you implemented is essentially 1 year of reduced dues. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. It's
Yeah.
about it's about a third of the membership fee.
Wow.
Yeah,
Damn.
and so it's
It's so
significant.
meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a sign of good faith. We heard from a few of our members, primarily women, and but we did extend it for male, female, and for maternity, paternity. And I think one of the big successes we had was at our annual conference last year. One of our awardees was a woman, and it was an evening event, and she had her young daughter with her, which was maybe 9 months old. The young daughter was a little fussy, so she took her up on stage and accepted her award, in front of the academy. And so it was very exciting to see. I think there's just been a bit of a shift in acceptance of family life that's intertwined with your personal and work life and or your professional life. So yeah, that was really exciting to see.
That's amazing. And this again goes back to you being an empath, and
Yeah.
so many of us in the association space, I feel, we're really empathetic, and that's actually not just for making our members feel belong in this industry, but at the same time brings out so many different opportunities for the organization as well. And this is so amazing to hear and fascinating to hear that you're playing around with the model, because obviously membership dues is not a one size fit all, and how can it be, especially when you're ranging from different membership types to different countries, people with different requirements, their family changes and things like that. So I really appreciate that, and I'm glad I asked the question that is there something that we should know about. Thank you so much for sharing that. But
Absolutely.
yeah, this has been fun. I think one last thing that I'd like to ask you is, if there's one principle or one rule that you'd want to apply across the board in the membership space, and everyone has to follow it, what would that be?
Yeah, I think it's just just act on it, right? Doing something is
Mm,
better than nothing. I think so many times there's an issue or there's a problem and or it's like that's just status quo. It doesn't necessarily have to be, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a large research project and a
mm,
5-year implementation. Maybe just start out small. Start out with a pilot program, do a small section and just act on it, right?
yeah.
I think just doing something is better than doing nothing.
That's right. I feel a lot of times because and I understand it. The association space has limited resources. There's so much to plan for, and we risk a work.
Mhm.
But a lot of times I've seen people being saying nothing is better than something wrong. But the missed opportunity there is that you would never know what we could
Right.
be, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect to start, just start. Because yeah, it might not be perfect, but along the way you're gonna figure out like, oh, this actually didn't work, but we can tweak it and
That's
you'll
right.
get to a place that really works well. So yeah, I think don't be scared. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be such a large project. Just maybe start out small and just act.
That's right. Now this is such a key lesson for so many people out there. Thank you so much, Ashley. I really enjoyed this conversation. And to our listeners, stay tuned because we've got so many other professionals out there who are ready to share their experiences. And this is the place where you can come and learn from your peers. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Manny. Thanks for having me today.